Book Club. And I am live with Jennie Ensor, lovely, lovely Jennie, who was in my top 10 list last year. I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about The Bad Neighbour and show off that lovely cover, and I'll show it off at the same time.
Okay, yes, well, The Bad Neighbour is about a very bad neighbour indeed, and the two women who have the misfortune to live next door. And
oh, that's a lovely picture of you on the back.
Oh, yes, yes, small village during the first lockdown, and so there's a lot of village stuff and tensions between friends and the community, members of a community, and the pandemic is a sort of backdrop, and it's like someone said, it's like a catalyst, or it's like a furnace. It exaggerates all the dark forces which are already there and all the tensions, and it churns it all up and creates this awful situation in the end. I know I'm not very good at describing things very briefly, but there's one of the characters, Tara, that's the bad neighbor, and she has quite a dark past. I think she'd be what you'd call narcissistic to a degree. She's very, very self-centered. She's hypocritical I think lots of people are to an extent. No, you don't always do exactly what. Yeah, it's easy, very easy to do it in a small way, but she makes herself out to be this person who helps the community, and she wants to be seen as like not really a do-gooder, but as a really helpful person and someone who gets things done. But she really has ambitions. She has a PR business, so she's a freelance PR, and she's very friendly with one of her neighbors, this older woman called Elspeth, who's an ex-dancer. And then another woman moves in, Ashley, and Ashley comes with a Pakistani heritage husband and two children who are mixed race. And that in itself, so Tara isn't very pleased about it. And she feels that somehow Ashley, who starts to become friends with Elspeth, Ashley is taking away this woman that she's very fond of and has got quite close to, and in fact is one of her only friends in this village. So things sort of go downhill from there.
We've got lots and lots of hellos already. So we've got Rebecca with us. We did think that Rebecca would be front and centre. So hello, Rebecca. And we've got lots of, I can't see everybody's names, but I believe we've got Sarah Blackburn. We've got Tony Millington. Hi, Tony. We've got Leslie Lloyd. We've got Laura Hamilton. I'm sorry I can't see everybody's names. It only shows me about 5 comments on Facebook while we're live. I've no idea why. But hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone. I didn't do that. I did that video. It took me forever just redoing it. Oh God, I sound terrible. So I redid it a few times. So I don't know who actually knows about this, but I guess people just see who's on or check them out.
Somebody said, I'm intrigued, especially as it's number 1 in baking and desserts ebooks. Did you know that you're number 1? Well, there's definitely baking and desserts in it.
It's been number 1 in parodies, but okay, well, this is definitely a baked dessert. Well, a baked cake. See the scone. And there's a whole, because it's one of the cozy mystery elements, it's really psychological suspense.
Yeah.
But it's got this cozy mystery feel because it's set in a village, and there's things like baking and poisoning and chocolate brownies.
We won't say too much about any of that though, but we will say Leslie has just joined us, and we're just chatting with Jennie Ensor, Leslie, about The Bad Neighbour. It's on special offer at the moment.
Yes, it's 99p for the ebook, or 99 cents if you're in America.
We do have American viewers as well, which is lovely.
Yeah, I think it's about to finish. It's been on special offer since it was published, which was all my idea. So I'm so relieved that it's actually been selling reasonably well. But
And you're also on Kindle Unlimited as well.
yes, it is. So completely free if you're on Kindle Unlimited. And the paperback is just the usual sort of price, like about 10 quid. I don't know exactly what it is.
Well, as you were saying, somebody said I haven't eaten a chocolate brownie since I read this book. That was Rebecca. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. As we were saying, this book does have cozy elements. Obviously, Silenced was the last book I read of yours, which I absolutely loved as well. And I did notice at the end of this one that my quote for Silenced is right at the back of the book on the very last page, which is quite nice reading a book that you've been sent and then finding that you quoted for the previous one. So that was nice. Thank you both.
Nice quote you gave.
But as you say, this one does have cozy elements.
Yes.
Silenced didn't. But how lucky you are to have such a good publisher who will let you you don't literally have to stay in one lane. You can veer off a little bit.
Yeah, they're very open to risk and to creative risks. And which is great for me because I don't like being put into a box. And I think after Silence, there was quite a lot of, it's quite heavy in places, and there was quite a lot of very dark stuff. And I just wanted to go towards the humorous side a little, even though there are dark elements in this book too.
Yeah.
But because it was such fun to write, and I love the interactions between the three characters, Elspeth, Ashley, and Tara in particular. And Tara was, because she is this bad neighbor. It's like a joy to be able to just write someone who's really is bad, and although I tried to make her rounded so that it's not like a caricature and someone that you can't actually believe in at all. But with the cozy side, there's quite a few. There's a group in it. There's like the COVID community support group, which there were thousands of these all over the country during lockdown, and I tried to make it fairly small so that you could actually follow the characters
which you did very, very successfully. Yeah. You've made each of them really individual, so you know exactly who they are.
It was so challenging, and also I had a lot of Zoom meetings, and I was just thinking, how do I describe people on a Zoom meeting, and especially when there's quite a few of them, and it made me really think, and how do you know if someone's actually looking at someone else on a Zoom meeting, because you can't. All you know is that they're staring into the screen or away from the screen. So it's all little things like that which were interesting to do, but I think I put there's possibly more humor. Well, I think it's sort of, I don't know if it's distributed. I think it's more humor at the start, and it could lull the reader into thinking, oh yeah, it's really light and it's I don't know.
I think you've got dark humor throughout it. There's lots of the kind of barbs that they throw at each other that really just make you cackle while you're reading it. They're so they really go after each other, and some of the diary entries are hilarious. I just thought that was genius.
Thank you. Yeah, because it's always slightly on the diary entries that came to me later, quite a bit later, about I wanted to do something different and I couldn't quite work out what it was, so I thought, oh yeah, I need something from her childhood, Tara's childhood. And so there is sort of like a thread running through for a while which looks at her early life and what leads to her being in the situation she is and how she is now. But yeah, so there's not hundreds of diary entries, because I did write a novel, Not Having It All, which has loads of text messages and diary entries and emails and goodness knows what.
So yeah, this one you have used kind of text messages and diary entries and shouted conversations across a fence. And I mean, there's lots of different ways that people have communicated. Zoom, as you said, you've used a lot of technology, but also, you know, diaries, not really a technology. It's supposed to be a private thing, a diary.
Well, as in a journal. So some of it is like she's writing because she mentions the therapist, and you never have a name. So Tara is writing partly in the present. When she's writing in the present, it's to sort of exorcise her frustrations and violent impulses, which she has quite often. But when you also have the childhood, what I would say is more like a journal entry, or perhaps they both are, where she's actually discovers these journal entry things from her childhood that she hid away and had forgotten about them.
So Sarah Blackburn has asked, what made you write a book about the beginning of the COVID lockdowns? And I wondered if you, because lots of people veered away from the idea of even writing about COVID. So many people have just either pretended it hasn't happened, or have just gone for just kind of a light smattering of it, rather than making it really kind of part of the plot. You know, it's part of the story. When you started out writing, did you know straight away that you were going to be using the lockdowns to stage the story? Or did that come to you after you started?
No, my memory isn't great, but I think it was that I would use COVID somehow, because I was very, I guess, inspired by all the surreal elements of the lockdown and the humour of it as well, even at the same time as it was so awful in many ways. And so for me, I felt I was living with my husband and dog, and we were very privileged, and we now had a park nearby, and we didn't get seriously ill. But even so, there was even like the 5 o'clock Boris briefings, and all the lockdown rules and the thing. I remember going for a walk, and my friend was puffing and panting, and she wanted to go and sit down on a bench, and then we were looking around, and was there anyone around, because we weren't supposed to be sitting down for too long. And it's all like, it's just so ridiculous in some ways, if we look at it with that humorous eye. So I really felt I wanted to write something which covers that period. And then it was, of course, that Barnard Castle fiasco and all the political bit. And I don't really go into the politics, because
no, you don't. We're aware of them in little snippets through the book, but it's really not politic heavy.
Yeah, so I thought people don't really want to revisit all that again, but just occasionally I put in a bit about like Boris Johnson going into hospital, which is around the same time that something happens to Elspeth. So there's, I guess it's, so I think it was the food, because there was such a lot about people having problems, like, or major issues, being able to eat and having all their income going, and something about, so there's food as a theme in it. And so I just felt, I don't know quite how it happened, but I wanted something, I knew it was something to do with food. And so this woman Tara starts off what she calls the food initiative, to help the poorer people in the community. She's very snobby, and so she has her mixed ideas about it, but it actually takes off. And so it starts off as a sort of little thing that might not work, and it ends up being much bigger than she expects. So
she really loves being in charge of it, doesn't she?
Yes. And I guess that gives I don't know, that's the vehicle for her being very hypocritical. So there's an incident that happens later where she ends up totally like betraying the sort of values that she makes out that she is, like this very ethical person who wants to help people. Actually, she ends up, I don't know if I should say, she ends up stealing basically from this thing, and so effectively stealing from the community. and which is, and then there's all these other issues between the neighbours. But there's something of, it was because it was something about that lockdown situation. I really wanted to write about it, and I'm not quite sure creatively how that happened, but it was, oh yes, well, it's to do with the isolation. And my character Elspeth, because of a lockdown, she wasn't at all isolated before. She was getting on for 80, but she was really busy and had a big social life. And then with lockdown, although she feels that she wants to comply, she doesn't want to get ill and die, it's also like a huge change in her life. She suddenly doesn't hardly sees anyone apart from Tara, so she immediately becomes vulnerable, and Tara insists on helping her and bringing these medications and and her health food shop. She's keen on expensive health food stuff. So
and Tara does really help her out, doesn't she? And I think to a degree, Tara really does believe that she's doing all of the right things, and why can't people just see that I'm doing all these good things, and she doesn't see the negative things that she's doing. She just basks in the positives.
She's very blinkered in that way, she's blinkered to an extent anyway. And she probably wouldn't think that she's doing anything all that terrible. She's always self-justifying. There is a, which I think is not unusual for people who do terrible things, and in a way that you can argue that all along she isn't. No, it's not like she. Well, I won't say anymore because it might give away.
That's the thing, we're veering into kind of spoiler territory, and we obviously don't want to spoil anything. But yes. There's a lot to talk about with the different themes and the different feelings and the things that you explore. But Guy Hale says, "Hi Guy, agree lockdown was hilarious at times. Helped you find out how good your relationship was." I mean, really explored that in this book.
Yes, well,
excuse me, sorry.
Because I was lucky, because in the lockdown I had all the ideas for this book, but I was working on Silenced. But I found I was in several groups, and we immediately went to the Zoom meetings, and I started, after a while I started making notes. I thought, oh, this is quite funny, and this thing that people would say. And it's that surreal thing where you suddenly, which everyone, well, probably most people who are watching it, they have experienced that. Yeah, just that strange thing. You're in another mode, and
you're in a weird limbo. It was really interesting to see. I'm thinking back to the Zoom meetings in the book. Ashley slowly come out of the shell, and we're getting her in a monologue, and you're thinking, well, is she going to speak up? Is she going to say that she's not happy about things? Is she always just going to be kind of timid in front of people? And then she really comes out of the shell with these meetings, and just finds this strength that she lost along the way. And that was a really interesting thing to see with Ashley.
And that, in a way, Tara is the one who initiates that, in a sense, that Tara Ashley into actually having to face her weaknesses, and or that particular weakness of not wanting to stand up for herself, and she's afraid of conflict. So that and I think I share some of that with her. So
I would agree. I definitely am a little bit like that sometimes. I think it's quite easy to just kind of keep yourself out of it rather than putting yourself right in the thick of things at times.
Yeah, I'm often, if there's people having a fight, I'm often the one who says, well, let's calm down and let's try to work it out, and what do we find out. So, but with Ashley, she does have to, and there's the whole group is the community group, which helps people who are vulnerable. It's led by Tara, and they all have to decide for themselves what they're going to do, and whether they face up to this this woman, this selfish woman.
And we've missed out the third woman.
Woman, important.
Yeah.
Quite eccentric, and she's a hermit, and she wanders around the village with binoculars and looking at birds. But she, I feel I guess she's the sort of, she's the ultimate outsider, but she's very happy that something happened a long time ago. She doesn't really like, on the whole, she doesn't like human company, but as the night goes on, she changes a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
But she she draws birds, and then when she regularly comes to this it's called the Green, this area in this part of the village. It's a hilltop village, and she sees all the changes with lockdown and all everyone coming to exercise and have picnics on the Green, where normally she'd have it to herself. And then she starts to actually draw people and take notes of what's going on.
And she has quite an interesting journal, and I think it is really interesting to watch her grow and slowly become a bit more accustomed to people as well as the birds. You know, you do eventually see her. I mean, she's aware of who all of the people are. But she calls Elspeth the dancing lady, for example. She doesn't know she's called Elspeth, but she's very well aware of who everybody is, and she just kind of lives in a cottage out of the way, and nobody really sees her. So it's really nice to see her have some conversations.
Yes, and that's it all starts to develop, I'd say, in the second part, early in the second part, and you see various the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, and they have a picnic, and there was a village straying from a subject of Bird Woman a little bit, because I didn't really plan Bird Woman. She just came to me, and I was, as I was writing it, I think I had some of the plot sketched in, but I had no idea towards the end what would happen with her and exactly why she was there. But I just liked the character, and I took my early draft to my writing group, and they all said, "Oh, they love Bird Woman. I want more of her." So okay, I'll put some more of her, but not really knowing what I was going to do with her. But in the second half, there are references to scenes involving the Black Lives Matter picnic they have, and there was what inspired me for that was this town in Gloucestershire called Lydney, and there was a big article in the Guardian about all these divisions in the community as a result of this planned protest. So a lot of the villagers didn't like, or people in the town didn't like, the idea of having a protest, and then a lot of probably younger people did, and so there was then I did have a picnic instead. So this is a pivotal moment, and Tara gets an idea after going to this picnic and seeing all the demonstrators. And also, you will know from reading it that Bird Woman gets something significant happens to Bird Woman, which comes back later.
Yeah, I know exactly what thing leads back to the other thing, and I'm not going to say any of them. Not going to discuss any of that, because then we are really heading into spoiler territory. Yeah. But I've got to tell you that I loved it. So we'll just leave it there and let everybody else go and spend your 99p on your ebook, or go and treat yourself to a nice paperback. So you mentioned obviously the Black Lives Matter picnic that they had. We've got a lot of different themes and a lot of different emotions, as I said before. We're looking at loneliness, we're looking at racism, we're looking at people's lives changing hugely. We're looking at how communities come together or fall apart in certain situations, and where the divides come in. So it does start off feeling a bit cozy, but actually, as with everything that I've read that you've written, you've put a lot of thought into the things that you want to discuss. You're looking at things from different points of view, even if you don't necessarily agree with them all. As the author, you're really exploring the themes and the emotions that the characters are feeling. And you do that so well.
Yes,
we just get completely immersed. I could even have been sat on a bench watching all of this unfold. I was completely immersed in the book.
Well, that's what I wanted to do, because I really have, I can't say fallen in love with, but a few of the characters I'm now thinking about writing. Well, I've started writing something that may continue. So, but I love to write where I can just try to get the reader to be there and to make it vivid and the characters to feel really, but you can believe in them, they're right there. Even Tara, because I guess I have a soft spot for, not a soft spot, but I can sort of see where she's coming from and what might have, how she could be in this situation, and that things have, that she's had a very tough childhood and things haven't worked out for her, and I won't say anything about who I might have known or not known like that, but I didn't want her to be like just some like a totally evil person that you can't relate to in any way.
Yeah, she's not one-dimensional at all. There's a lot of facets to her.
Yes, and I've actually said to a couple of friends, Elspeth, the former dancer, there's someone, I think Elspeth is a fairly good person, and although she is a little bit, she'll speak her mind at times and ruffle some feathers, but one of my friends is an ex-dancer and a similar age, and I've just sort of had her in mind, but it's not the same. It's not the same person, but she's one of the one of the influences. And when I told my friend, she was really pleased. So
I love that she was pleased. You touched on then that you're writing something now. Oh, I'm just going to go to. We published our first book during lockdown. I believe that's from Rebecca, and I'd forgotten that they'd published the first book in lockdown. So remind us what the book was, Rebecca, because I can't think, and I'm not getting all of the names up. Do you think there is a second book? I think that was Sarah Blackburn. Yes, it was. So is the book that you're working on now a second book involving some of these characters?
Well, it's intended to be, a second book involving some of the characters, but I haven't done a huge amount of it. And as soon as I was really into it, and it was going quite well, when the Bad Neighbour was about to come out, and then I just felt, oh, I've got to do my bit to try to publicize it, and like this talks, which I love doing.
But would you rather get in the way of the writing?
Yeah, it's just too. I just felt I needed. Probably so. I'm having this week in Dartmoor, lots of walks and by the sea and so on, and I think after that, hopefully I can go back to the writing. At least I was doing like a few hours a day, so I'll go back to that.
Are you somebody who can write anywhere?
If I'm on my own, yes. But with husband and dog in a small cottage, it's quite hard.
Will the second one be set in Brampton?
Sorry?
The second book set in Brampton as well, or have you not got that far yet?
Yes, I think it is. But I haven't. Yeah, it'd be a different situation, very, very different. Yeah. I'm locked down and a few years have passed. And I'm thinking about writing something which involves something else which happened to me, which was quite difficult to cope with. And so someone fairly close to me became, with the pandemic, they started to really change in what they believed and became much more right-wing and pro-Trump and believing in all sorts of conspiracy theories, as I saw it anyway. And that was quite difficult. So I want to have not so much, I want something to do with, which may not work in a crime novel. So I'm not really sure what's going to happen. But so I thought a bit like Happy Valley, but in Brampton. You have these sinister, you have some businessmen and you have some business people, and you have rather elements like in that town council, say, or people who are on the police but taking backhanders or whatever it is. And so the shadowy sort of side of a town which is there, and you have the two, without giving it all away, you have at least two characters who it's actually three characters. You have three totally unlikely, they're not exactly like, they're not trying initially, they're trying to solve a crime. There's a woman who's found with her, she's fallen, looks like she's fallen and broken her neck in a quarry, but it's possible that it isn't that she's fallen, that she was pushed, and the police don't want to go there and they don't want to investigate. So Bird Woman is one of the characters, and she uses her observation skills to have a sniff around, and she sees all sorts of things that she shouldn't see.
Interesting that you've gone for a series with this one. So will you be sticking with series for a while, or will there be more standalones?
I hate to have any feel that I'm constrained to do anything, so it may not be like a series in that way, but it may just happen to have these two characters. So I thought, because it's quite unusual with psychological suspense to have a series as such, because it's way easier. Say if you have a detective, perhaps, and you carry on, and you have a new story each time, and you're starting from more or less the beginning, but you carry on his character, the same person, so you can develop the backstory. So I'm thinking about either doing that and keeping the characters the same, some of the characters anyway, or actually having some sort of continuation of the central plot. So that has been quite and I haven't seen very many authors do that. There's an American author who's, now I can't remember her name, but she's written hundreds of books, huge numbers, and she wrote this very popular one about 20 years ago, and she's just written a follow-up to it. But I can't really think of very many people have done it. So it could be that they haven't done it for a very good idea. But there was something like, what was it? So it's like, I better not say any more because I haven't yet firmed up my ideas.
And it could all change.
And it could change, exactly.
Thinking back to one of the conversations I've been having a lot with people lately is that with writing being so solitary, and you spend most of your time writing by yourself, and then we expect you to go out into the world and go to events and come and do live interviews and talk to people. Is there a happy balance in that? How do you find that?
Yeah, it's like I find it quite usually quite sudden that you spend so much time away, hardly. Oh no, I do have some sort of social life, so I do see people, and I like to not be a complete in isolation. So, and I've got my husband around and whatever, but it certainly at times it's been. No, it's been. I haven't seen that many people, and it is a big change, and it takes a while to get into that. Yeah, into that expressing things outwardly rather than thinking on the page. That's probably why I'm a writer. I find it much easier to communicate in writing than I do spoken word. But I love singing, so and dancing and so on. So there's little. I don't know, is that sort of performance thing I quite like, but yeah, how do I explain? I feel I'm not very good at it, and as time goes on, I'm better at actually saying what I really know what's on my mind and getting to a flow of it. So I'm up for the challenge. And I did this talk, was it yesterday, at the Tregel's Book Lodge, Tregel's Lodge Book Club, which seems to be a big thing on Twitter. And it's a retirement community in the southwest in Truro. And they have regular people come on. So I was talking to, there's about 15 fairly elderly, or mostly women. And that was good, because also you can see them right there, even though some of them couldn't hear. I don't think some of them had their hearing aids, and they found it difficult to hear what I was saying. But
did you?
Yeah,
sorry.
Go on.
Did you? Somebody said explain your book through the medium of modern dance. Don't do that. Guy, behave yourself through the medium of modern dance. I'll ask Guy to do that next time he's on. He can explain his books through the medium of modern dance. That should be interesting. Did you know when you wrote The Bad Neighbour that it could possibly become a series? And did that mean that you had to think about what would be happening in the next book as you wrote this one? Or
no,
was it kind of the other way around? Did you think about it afterwards, and then did you have to make any changes in the Bad Neighbour?
It's a good question. I don't think I had to make any changes. Yeah, can you hear that? There's a cockerel in the background.
Is that what that was?
No, that was. There's all these country sounds wafting through. No, I didn't. For most of the time I was writing Bad Neighbour, I didn't really think of a sequel at all, or having any continuation of the characters. But it was probably when I was like revising it for about the fourth time, I started to think, well, I'm really fond of these characters, and I might keep some of them. And fortunately, there wasn't anything. I mean, there was a lot of stuff I had to change, because I got a couple of crime. There was Graham Bart, that was one, and then there was a couple of other people.
Brian Price as well, didn't you?
Yes, Brian Price. He was really good on the forensic side, because I had this also. We can't really talk about it in any detail, but because it's too close to the end. But there was all sorts of things I had to get right, and which weren't right when I first wrote it, and I was asking like friends how would. But the first ending I had, my husband said, "Oh no, you can't. That's really, it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't be, whatever this thing is, it wouldn't work at all. It wouldn't be realistic to kill someone." And so no, I didn't. I gradually started to think that I wanted to bring the characters back, and I still don't know. I just have to actually write. I've done my best to plan this next one, book number 6, and hard. And I started to follow advice on, there's all these different ways you can plan a book, and so rather with silence, I went overboard, and I wrote this little novella of a plot, which was quite silly. This time, it's very brief, so I'm just going to see what happens.
I think it's interesting to try different things. Yeah.
There is the I guess there's an element, as not so I'm not the publisher, but for there is factors that the publisher has to consider about, if you have a major part of a plot which then is sort of it's not exactly continued, but it's sort of put to bed, and then it comes back to life again later, and how that affects the readers, and how much. One thing I have struggled with is working out, what do I need to tell people, what is the assumed knowledge, and that's probably why it's not very often done. Because if
Hale has said there is a. Sorry, go on, carry on. I think we've got a bit of a delay.
Yeah, it's all the thing, because I don't want to. I mean, I guess it's a common thing to an extent, but you don't want to give away some crucial thing that happened at the end of a book for anyone who hasn't read the first. Then again, you don't want to leave them puzzling and scratching their heads, what's going on here, and so it's some balance, I suppose. And I just have to find that.
Guy said it's a perfect prequel novel with the same characters before COVID. He'd read that too. But you have got the opportunity there, if you wanted to create something before all of this happened and really show the village beforehand. You could have the opportunity to do that, to revisit one of the characters' earlier lives.
I would need to have a really good idea for that. And so far, it's nothing that has grabbed me enough. But yes, I might be able to. And I still haven't. And I made this a fictional village that. So there's no one overriding. No, there's not like one particular hilltop village that I had in mind where I'd been to. So, and where I live is quite hilly, although it's in London, and it used to be a village. And there are some similar parallels of that. But I could, it'd be quite. I thought it'd be quite interesting to go and look at other actual hilltop villages, and maybe I wrote a prequel or sequel or whatever, I could bring more of an actual village into it. Whereas at the moment, well, when I wrote it, it was much more my imagination.
So have you got lots of notes from it for the next fictionalization of the village?
I'm going to. There's a village called Coldridge, which is close to here, close-ish. I think it's in Cornwall. So I thought I'd descend on it with some of my paperbacks and take photos in bakeries of chocolate brownies and so forth, and chat to people and I know it has a green, so I might be able to chat to a few locals and get some ideas from that and ask them questions. So that's what I'm planning to, and I might put some on social media, get some videos and some photos of me in this place. And if it's no good, well, I can always go to another village somewhere else.
I think that's Rebecca that said, oh no, it's Sarah. I thought you had based Brampton in the Cotswolds.
Well, that's what I thought. That's what I thought at the time. I thought it could be in the Cotswolds, but it isn't actually. There's not anything that actually locates it, and it could be in the Cotswolds. It could be somewhere else.
It's interesting. I hadn't really thought about where exactly it was. Just somewhere a bit fancier than where I live.
I sort of wanted it to be like it could be anywhere. Like it's in England, but not, which is unusual for me. But I wanted it to be. No, it's a hilltop, so that it's like. I guess there's the hill. There's the bird woman is one of the poorer people who she lives in a shack in the reclaimed marshland, and so these three women live towards the top of a hill, so they're quite privileged and they have all the views, and but I just felt it was easier for me to just make it all up.
I think it's a good idea. I think it's a difficult thing to base something that's somewhere real unless you actually live there or just know the area very, very well. You're going to get letters in saying you can't go that way around there. You can't. No, that's a dead end. You can't go there. And the things that people pick up on, that readers pick up on, are astonishing.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and there aren't these villages of hills or yeah, exactly. So I didn't want to just get into the trap of having all these details and then people saying, "Oh no, they don't exist," and you've got it wrong. And I didn't need that.
No.
It's nice. I mean, I know fantasy authors probably they have their own sort of everything's mapped out and they make it all up. But I didn't go quite that far. But no, I didn't need to have an actual geographic place. But maybe this time, if I do this sequel, it'll have to have I might want it to be more located in somewhere real.
So what else have you done to celebrate the release of The Bad Neighbour?
Well, what have I done? So I haven't done a huge amount of things. Had a few.
Did you get a day off? Did you take a day off to enjoy it?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I went out. Yeah, I went out to the pub, had dinner, had a drink. Oh yes, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I had a book launch 2 days afterwards in the pub, and for the first time, rather than in a bookshop, I thought, oh yeah, I'll just have it in the pub. So I had a room in a pub fairly close to me in Kentish, Tufnell Park, in North London, and I got 4 of my friends to read out parts of a book.
That's a nice idea.
Yes, and so this woman I told you about, the ex-dancer, she was playing Elspeth, and she has done acting as well as dancing. She was in Doctor Who years ago, and all sorts of things in Pan's People. So she plays Elspeth, and because I was very open. I said, oh yeah, because I got some of the inspiration from you. And she started reading, and she kept saying, "Oh, this is really me." And now she's on this medication, which makes her a little bit forgetful at times. And she was quite anxious before the event that she would make a mistake and get it wrong. So we had like 2 rehearsals, and then I had my other friend Diana Berriman, who is an actress, and she was brilliant, and I think she really got Tara so well. So we had a table, and I put some on Facebook, so I think some people have seen it. And yeah, my husband and I got to play 2 male characters. So he plays Ashley's husband, Zach. I just has a few lines, or had a few lines, and else who just has a short line. And my friend Vanilla, she plays Bird Woman, and she had the idea of dressing up, so she borrowed binoculars from one of them and a deerstalker hat, and the pictures are so good, and she's really up. I mean, it's unusual, but she's really up for anything. So I was just saying, oh, maybe I could, just for publicity, I could get photos or videos of her going around looking through binoculars and chatting to innocent passers-by. But yeah, I don't know if that would really. I think that's straying a little bit too much. So I thought I'd stick to getting my Tara and Elspeth and having their dialogue, and that works very well. So I did a video and an audio recording of them close up, just going through those scenes.
It's such a lovely idea to have your friends dressing up and doing different things. It's just such a brilliant way of celebrating.
Oh, it is, and it's such fun, and they really love doing it. And I think it just gives, like some people, my husband doesn't read that much, so it's a way to get into the book for people who don't read, if they watch TV more. Gives them just an idea of what it's about and some of the stuff that's going on.
I was trying to find an image that I could put on to show. Actually, here we go. I'm going to upload. Was your friend in a stripy top with a hat on?
Yes.
Okay. Bear with me a second. Let's see if I can upload that. Are you happy for me to share this?
Yeah. It's had lots of views on the reels.
It's a brilliant picture. I've just selected one because most of them are, as you say, reels and videos, but I don't think that would work.
Okay,
but I'll show this. There you go. Can you see that? Or are you on your phone?
Oh, I can't see it.
I've just realized. So yeah, are we talking? Are we on your phone instead of your laptop?
Yeah, it's all on my phone.
That's why we couldn't find the cog earlier.
Oh, okay, right.
I've just remembered now that you said you'd be on holiday, so you'd be on your phone. We've got an image of your friend, and she's got a stripy cardigan on, binoculars around her neck, a hat with some feathers, it looks like, sticking out of it.
Yeah.
Dangly earrings, I think. Big smile. It's a brilliant picture.
And she
You
did.
must have had a great night.
Yeah, and she did it all in a northern accent, in a sort of not quite Hull accent.
Mm.
Yeah, because the others are quite, I guess, they're middle. The other two are sort of middle class, so that was a nice contrast.
Well, she looks fantastic in this image anyway. And good on your friends for joining in. I'll leave that on for a moment for anyone who's not seen it yet. Somebody's saying love the photos. That's Rebecca. Excuse me, sorry. You finally get to come on after me feeling better, and then I'm coughing all the way through. I keep trying to mute it, but I don't always catch it. Somebody has said, guys said, Bird Lady is definitely a serial killer. Before that, she worked in the city. I mean, you could have such fun writing about her life story.
Yeah, yeah. Birdwoman is yeah. There's so much, but I've just sort of scraped the surface, as it were.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, I could go much further. I don't know what yet. But so in the sequel, I was thinking she does use her skills her observation skills, and
And her blending into the background skills. She's had a lot of practice of being kind of the grey woman in the background.
But I mean, people don't even know her name.
Well, I've not said her name, and I wasn't going to because it is revealed at some point. But I just thought I'd leave that for people to go and discover.
Yes, and there was maybe the feminist. I've got this feminist side, so I think it's particularly women as they get older. They can, I mean, that's conventional wisdom that they can disappear into. But possibly there is more. You know, you get older as a woman, and it's harder to be noticed. I don't know if that's true.
Have you ever watched Grace and Frankie?
No.
It's Lily Tomlin and my mind's gone blank. Jane Fonda. And there's a scene where one of them wants some cigarettes, and I think it's Frankie, Lily Tomlin as Frankie. One of them wants some cigarettes, so they go into a shop, and no, the young people serving can't see them, and the guy completely ignores them to chat this young woman up, and she's waving her hands and stamping her feet and hello, and she just walks up and takes the cigarettes and walks out, and he doesn't even see her do it. So sometimes things can play out in our favour as we get a little bit older.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of, I think, prejudice against even characters in books and TV, against older women. And I know my friend who is Diana, who's playing Tara in these videos, just for fun, really.
Yeah.
She was saying that she's finding it harder. For a while she was finding it harder to get serious parts. And she's been in Notes on a Scandal, and she was in the Royal Shakespeare Company and goodness knows what. So she's a really serious actress. But because of her age, and now she can get parts, or what I understand, but she tends to be typecast as an older woman, and she doesn't want to be like an old woman, some doddery old, foolish, doesn't know what's going on.
I do love the fact that Elspeth is 78 and has just been getting on with things, because why wouldn't she? She's fit enough, and everything's working, and her brain's as sharp as ever. Why wouldn't she just be getting on with things?
Yes.
So it was interesting how you made a 78 so had to be in the house because you're over 70, you're vulnerable. Well, I don't feel vulnerable. I want to be out and doing what I normally do.
Yeah,
and that was interesting.
Yeah, and I do, because I know a lot of women who were very afraid, or not just women, but very afraid of getting COVID, and quite happy to stay indoors, or rather they felt they should do, and to be safe. But there is this tension between she doesn't want to give up the rest of her life.
Yeah.
The normal thing, but she does. And she's forced to be, but she is forced really to become more vulnerable because of all the rules, and not being cut off from her friends. So she's then becomes more at the mercy of Tara, her neighbour. But I like the idea of having old, I guess I'm not quite that age, but old women who are, if I can say old women, who are crime solvers. They're not really the Miss Marple thing, but it's something like that.
I like the fact that she's not a doddery old woman. She's just this woman going about a business. I like that, and the fact that so many people were forced into situations that were uncomfortable for them. It's good to see that explored through books. As I said, lots of authors, it's up to each individual author what they shy away from and what they really want to go with. Some people really didn't want to touch lockdown, and some people like you have used it excellently. As really an almost an extra character in some ways. So it's finding a balance, and I think you did that really well.
Yeah, well, thank you. No, I really wanted to not have, to sort of defy all these sort of ageist rules about, women characters shouldn't be over 40 or 50, whatever it is now.
Well, that's us out there. I'm definitely over 40.
Well, so am I. So I don't think, so I'm looking ahead. I think, well, what's wrong with being nearly 80? There shouldn't be any rules on. But I do. I mean, if the other characters are sort of like probably about 50, that's what I intend them to be. So they are a little bit younger.
We've come to 8 o'clock. I've just realised we're literally at 8 o'clock. That's gone really quickly. Thank you for joining us from your lovely holiday home.
Yes, I did enjoy it.
Let's give everyone a reminder that The Bad Neighbour is currently 99p on ebook. Did you say England and America?
Yes.
Or UK and America?
Well, it might be, UK and America. I don't know exactly where.
Could well be in other places. Go and have a look if you're not from the UK or America. You might find yourself a bargain there. Have a look anyway. It's a brilliant book. I've loved getting to talk to you about it. So thank you to everyone who's joined us. And thank you, Jenny, for coming to talk to me about The Bad Neighbour.
Yes, well, thank you very much, Sam. And thanks for everyone for watching this.